Hello, Lord of the Lair. Thank you for being here. And since you're here, please let me know if you can hear me clearly. I always like to get confirmation of that early. Doc Nif, thank you. If you can hear me, please let me know. Thank you, Betty, for joining. And Carol. Carol, if you're hearing me, let me know. You should be able to put a comment in. Say yes. Excellent. Thank you so much. Wow, there's a big lag time between the commenting, I have a feeling, but whatever. All right, everyone, let's just start by sitting quietly. I have some things I want to share today that I'm thinking about. I think it would be nice to just start by... Hi, David. Nice to have you. Taking a few breaths together. Resting. Frenzy, hi. Relaxing. Hello there. JLJ from Sedona, it looks like. Eleanor. Nancy. Ah, Nancy, nice to see you, my darling. It's a joy to have you. Hello, Dennis. So I want to speak a little bit today. You know, the interesting thing about, kind of anything you do, I suppose, you tend to be challenged by both sides of all polarities, Someone will tell you you're too fast, and someone else will tell you you're too slow. Someone will tell you you're too white, and someone will tell you you're too dark. Someone will tell you you're too high, and someone will tell you you're too low. So, hey, Chris, nice to see you. So no matter what you're doing, you tend to be criticized on all sides. And there's a particular polarity of criticism that I've heard a lot recently. And I just wanted to introduce to you the critique with some subtlety. And then that will lead us into a bit of a meditation today. So my spiritual training by and large happened in the non-dual tradition of Advaita Vedanta. The non-dual tradition of Advaita Vedanta is a Hindu tradition. The particular line that I worked in is the line that was originated in the early 20th century by Ramana Maharshi. And the basic premise of Advaita Vedanta, or any non-dual tradition, is that all is one, which, to be honest, is not dissimilar to lots of traditions. That the appearance of separation, the appearance of many, is an appearance, but beneath the surface of manyness, of difference, there is a unity of all. It's the basic idea of a non-dual philosophy. All is one, ultimately. Now, there tends to be two criticisms that are actually the opposite of that view. So on the one hand, or I shouldn't say that, there are two criticisms that can be leveled, can be made of people who are teaching the non-dual view. It's not a criticism of the view itself, but it's a criticism of how it's taught. So, and I experience both criticisms, and they're both fair enough, by the way. I don't know if I'm doing it right. I'm just doing it the best way I can. But on the one hand, people will say, and rightfully so, that the danger of teaching any kind of a non-dual tradition, whether it be Advaita Vedanta or any other, is that the idea of some kind of unified oneness becomes the ideal. That becomes the thing that matters. And the world of division, of separation around us, including ourselves, our personal self, our individual self, all becomes seen as some kind of an illusion to be transcended. And that's, critics will say, very damaging to people, right? Because we are this. It's a valid criticism. I think I don't think it's a criticism of non-dual teachings. I think it's a criticism of some of the ways that those are acted upon. Hey, Pink, how are you? Thank you for being here. People will say, well, but the non-dual view leads to it very well. But so does a dualistic view of God. It's not any different, because God becomes the thing that matters, and individuals are subjugated to God. Hello there, Francois. So whether the tradition is dualistic or non-dualistic, that criticism potentially applies. The source of that criticism, in my experience, tends to be when either leaders or organizations are motivated by wanting to control people. So one of the classic ways that people are controlled, and religious traditions have done this forever. Hello there, Aniko. Is you basically create some ideal, like a god or a non-dual, or whatever the ideal is that's transcendent, that's beyond the familiar. You claim to have access to that, and then you tell everybody else that that's the only thing that matters. So clearly you have all the power. This does happen. I've experienced this happening. This is a problem. It's not a problem of any particular tradition. It's a problem of the fact that people want to have power over others. Abuses of power are real problems in spiritual work. But they're not unique to spiritual work either. They're not unique to any particular tradition, and they're not unique to spiritual work. I've experienced lots of abuse of power in the workplace, in corporations that I've worked in. It's not like somehow spiritual circles are the unique venue for abuses of power. It happens in corporations, it happens in families, it happens in circles of friends. I mean, it's part of being human. Part of being human is the challenge of wanting to control others. So yes, it's a problem. I get that. And so to combat that problem, to ensure that I do not, in the role that I play, fall into that trap, I try to do everything I can to be as empowering of the individual as possible. Hello, Catherine. Hello, Sylvia. Hello, Unborn. And I teach often about bringing our unique gifts to the world. I try to create structures that empower people to find their deepest passion and to express it and manifest it in their lives. I love to celebrate the beauty of life, the beauty of the individual, the beauty of a well-lived life, you know. And because I do that, which is not a very non-dual thing to do, you know, at least in the Advaita Vedanta tradition, I often am criticized on the other side because people will say, I'm just glorifying ego achievement. So this is the kind of criticism that non-dualists will levy against certain forms of personal development, personal growth, personal transformation, saying it's not really spiritual, it's really just about empowering the ego to get what it wants, to move more powerfully through the world and get what it wants. Another valid criticism, you know, and it's a challenge because I believe that it's possible for us to attune our listening to something that wants to happen through us. That's not just what we want. It's not just fulfillment of a personal desire. It's the fulfillment of a destiny that exists beyond our separate self. It expresses itself through the separate self, but its origin is beyond that. And so in the way that I like to work, the meditation process is a process of quieting, allowing, becoming non-reactive to the movement of thought and feeling. And as we become non-reactive and as we experience peace and calm, we start to be able to hear things that were inaudible before. We start to be able to see things that were invisible before. A more subtle world of potentiality begins to emerge. It's a world beyond our worldly material self. It's the world of our soul, of a deeper part of ourselves. And in that emerging world of subtle energies, subtle sensations, subtle feelings. Hello, Supriya, nice to see you. We start to feel a different destiny. We start to feel, we don't have words that work, but we start to feel the purpose that we were born for. But it's not a purpose in an ordinary sense. Our word purpose has too much agency in it. It's not quite that. It's more like a river flows. You could say the purpose of a river is to flow. Okay, the purpose of a river is to flow, but it's not purpose in a normal sense. Hello, Supriya. So nice to see you. The nature of a river is to flow. See, that's the kind of purpose I'm talking about, the life purpose. It's more like our nature. It's our essential nature that we are an expression of. It's not something we choose to do. It's just an expression of us, of our essence. And that's what we're here for, is to express that essence. We were born to be ourselves. We weren't born to do something in the normal sense, in the familiar sense. We were born to be ourselves. And the challenge is that most of us are not ourselves. Most of us incorporate ideas from our culture, from the people around us, from our families. We make conclusions based on experiences that we've had, based on trauma that we've experienced, based on victories that we've had. We draw all kinds of conclusions. Often those conclusions are not reflective of our true essence because we don't live in a culture in which we are supported to find who we are. and then supported to express it. So people will criticize my emphasis on what I call higher self-expression, the book I wrote, released earlier this year, higher self-expression, which is what I see as the whole point of the path, is the whole point of the letting go is not just to let go and be done, it's to let go so that something can come through you. And to some more strictly, more traditionally thinking non-dualist ways of thinking, that seems like ego glorification. It seems like, or it certainly runs the risk of ego glorification. It runs the risk of turning people's more separate sense of self-desires, giving them some kind of divine purpose. It's certainly not what I intend to do. It's a valid criticism. I mean, there's danger on all sides in life. There's no way to do this risk-free. So of course, it's always possible. It's possible for me. I mean, I feel completely driven to do what I do. I feel utterly passionate about all the things that I'm doing. And I feel like I just want to do this till the day I die. I want to share what I'm here to share. I feel like I came for this. I feel like it's not something I'm doing. It's just my natural essence. It's what happens when I don't do anything. Now, I could be wrong. I could find out tomorrow or the next day or 2 years from now that I'm still off the mark. And if I do, I hope I have the humility to change. I mean, that's what we can do as human beings. We give ourselves entirely to our passion, and if we find we're off the mark, we change. What else can you do? Hi, Patricia. Nice to see you here. Now, I think when these kinds of criticisms are attributed to the tradition of non-duality itself, rather than to the limitations maybe of someone who's teaching it, someone like me, for instance, I think it's because there's a misunderstanding of what non-duality means. Non-duality says that all is one, right? That everything is one. So if everything is one, that non-duality literally means not two. It means the one without a second. They wanted to call it, whoever came up with that term wanted to use the term non-duality because they felt like calling it one implied there might be a two. And if you said not two, that means it's kind of like even more one than one. But on the one hand, if you're critiquing the non-dual tradition, or if in the name of a non-dual tradition, you're teaching some kind of ego sacrifice, or you're mistakenly making the ego the enemy of non-duality, there's something very dualistic about that, because then you have an ego that is somehow the enemy of a non-duality. And I understand that there are ways in which that can be a useful way to talk, but fundamentally, there can't really be an ego separate from non-duality. The ego itself must be an aspect of non-duality. So simply demonizing it doesn't feel well aligned with the foundational philosophy of oneness, of non-duality. On the other hand, if you're critiquing a particular non-dual expression because I get both of these. But the other critique is the critique of, in non-duality is about not doing anything. There's no doer, right? This is the big non-dual mantra. There's no doer. If there's no doer, how can you be preaching some kind of higher self-expression? There is no self to do anything. Ali, so nice to see you. There is no self. There is no doer to do anything. There's only the oneness that is. Hey, what up, Buttercup? Nice to see you also. But I think that is a misunderstanding because non-duality is not about not doing. Hey, Ali. Nice to see you. Hello, Buttercup. Non-duality is not about not doing. It's about letting everything be as it is. Surrender is the point. Surrender doesn't mean stopping anything. Thank you, Ali. Surrender means letting everything be. So what happens when you let everything be? Maybe when you let everything be, when you allow everything to be exactly the way it is, when you don't do anything, which is different than not doing. Not doing is doing something. It's stopping. Not doing anything is allowing. Allowing is what the goal is. So maybe for you, when you allow, thank you for those hearts, who's ever hitting them, when you're just allowing, when you're letting everything be as it is, maybe for you that means you just sit. You know, this was Ramana Maharshi for 3 years, according to legend, just sat, didn't do anything. That's what happened naturally when he let everything be as it is. People will often say to me, well, you're teaching people to do stuff, but Ramana just sat and did nothing. You know, he's the head of your line, and you're kind of breaking with tradition because he sat and did nothing, which is true. He did sit and do nothing, but he only actually sat and did nothing for 3 years. You know, then he moved and started an ashram and ran it for the next, 50 years. And from accounts that I've read, he was really, really busy with every single aspect of life in the ashram, from building the buildings to organizing the cooking schedule to everything. So maybe when you allow and let everything be as it is, you'll do nothing. Or maybe you'll get very busy. Surrender doesn't look any particular way. Surrender isn't about sitting quietly and doing nothing, and surrender isn't about being busy sharing your greatest gift. Surrender is simply about allowing whatever is happening to continue to happen. And when you do that, when you're not doing anything, when you're doing nothing, when you're allowing, then you get to see what wants to happen. This is the discovery. The discovery of higher self-expression isn't the discovery of what you want to do. It's the discover of what wants to happen through you. And you discover what wants to happen through you by allowing whatever wants to happen to happen. That may or may not feel like something you want to do. One of the classic examples of this is the Catholic nun, Mother Teresa. And the story of Mother Teresa was that she was in India, in Calcutta, and saw Indian children who couldn't go to school. There were no schools for them, and they had no supplies. There was nothing for them to learn with. And she started teaching children by scratching in the dirt. Oh, thank you, Supriya. She started teaching. She started scratching in the dirt to teach. And then she didn't really want to do it. And then she just kept getting this sense that she was supposed to do this, and she was supposed to start orphanages for all the children who had no parents. And she was kind of, in this struggle because it didn't feel like the holy life she had signed up for. She had signed up for a holy life which was praying and living in a nunnery and devoting herself to God, not running, schools and orphanages and being busy with all that. That wasn't within her idea of what her holy life was supposed to be. But she was relentlessly compelled to do that. And so she kept doing it. And she kept doing it for decades. And she did more and more and more. Now, she would probably talk about it by saying that that's what God wanted from her. I would want to more use the language that was the essence of, that was the deeper essence of her nature, her soul's nature. And her surrender was not a surrender of not doing or doing nothing. It was a surrender of allowing all that activity to happen. It occurs to me that it would be very few people's destiny to do nothing in a world that so desperately needs so much. It just doesn't make that much, I mean, I don't know, of course, but it occurs to me that in a world so full of need as this one, that this kind of world would attract very few people whose destiny was to do nothing. Now, of course, some doing nothing is important for all of us. You know, as the great American experimental author Gertrude Stein said, it's very, very difficult to be a genius. You have to do nothing a lot of the time. Very wise words, because if you're always busy doing, always busy doing, always busy doing, always caught up in the momentum of doing, there's no time for deeper emergence to occur. So it's very important that we disengage, that we stop doing for periods of time. But as those higher callings start to emerge through us, it's equally important to surrender to those and to let them emerge as activity. So with that, why don't we settle in and meditate together? And the instructions that I want to give you for meditation is to close your eyes. And just relax your body. Breathe in a way that feels comfortable and natural. And just allow yourself to become aware of everything that's happening. Hello, Angelica. We're just starting to meditate together. Allow yourself to become aware of the movement of thought and feeling. Notice as feelings arise in your nervous system. Notice as the understanding of what those feelings are arise as ideas in consciousness. Notice as thoughts form and pass through you. And notice how feelings naturally lead to thoughts, thoughts naturally lead back to other feelings, etc. Just watch it all move through you. typically we see all that movement of mind, and we've been taught to assume that that's us, that those are our feelings and our thoughts, that I'm the one who's feeling and I'm the one who's thinking. But as you're relaxing and allowing your thoughts and feelings to rise up and pass away, gently allow yourself to become aware that none of that is you. All of that movement, all of that activity is life living through you. Life generates feelings. Life recognizes feelings. Life produces thoughts. Life understands thoughts. It's all life living. It's not you feeling and you thinking. That's all life happening. And so the meditation is all about letting life live. Let life happen. Thank you, Monkey Sea Lion, for coming. Let life live through you. Let life happen. Just be aware that you are alive. And you can tell you're alive because things are happening. Feelings are happening. Thoughts are happening. Hearing my voice is happening. Understanding my words is happening. Life is happening right now. Life is always happening. Just sit, being utterly comfortable, completely relaxed, and be aware of the miracle of life living through you right now. Life is living. You are a witness to life living. You are not living. I wouldn't know how to live, but I was lucky because I was born alive. If I had been born dead, I'd never get life going. Life is living. You are witnessing life living through you. But who is witnessing? Life is also the witness. You are not some separate witness seeing life. You are life, witnessing itself, living. Relax deeply and embrace who you are. You are life, witnessing itself, living. You are not a person that lives. You are not a person that meditates. You are not a person that witnesses. You are life, living, meditating, and witnessing. You are that one without a second. You are life, witnessing itself live. Relax into the miracle of that. Life is always living. Life is always witnessing. Life is always meditating. You are life, living, witnessing, and meditating. The insight of non-duality does not tell you that you should do nothing or that you should be oneness. It simply tells you that there is nothing else possible than what is. This is it. This was always it. This will always be it, because there is no other. Fundamentally, existentially, spiritually, in the deepest sense, there cannot be a problem because this is all that could be. There is only one, and this is it. If you relax into that, you lose all sense of fear, all sense of needing anything to be different, all sense of separate ambition, all sense of even the possibility that anything could be different. But even in that completely surrendered state, you will very likely find that stuff keeps happening. Let it happen. This is not about not doing. It's not about stopping things from happening. It's about allowing whatever wants to happen to happen. It's about stepping aside and letting the deeper currents of divinity guide everything. Of course, they were anyway. They guided us into being overly achievement-oriented, and they guided us to move out of the way, and they're guiding us to allow. It's all one glorious unfolding. You can relax and trust the process of life. It's all happening perfectly. All you have to do is let it continue. Hello, Shannon. We're just coming to the last couple of minutes of meditation, so you joined at a perfect time. Just relax. And let yourself tune into the vibe that we've all been generating together. And no matter what's happening, Shannon, no matter what thoughts or feelings you see moving through your mind, just allow them to continue. Allow them to continue. Allow life to live itself through you. Okay, everyone, we can end the meditation. I want to thank you all for being here. It's always a pleasure to be live with you, and it's always a joy to see you here. I look forward to being with you next week. And I send you so much love. Thank you so much for being here with me. Bye now.